All right, we are talking about AI today. I'm excited because this is something I think obviously is becoming more prevalent. Like AI is kind of embedded now in Google and Siri, um, and it's so prevalent in what we see, I think, brands creating. So it can be useful to us and it can definitely cut down time in what we're doing, but you then want to do it in a way that's not like cringy. That's the best way to describe it. We don't want to be cringe, right? We want it to be utilizing our voice and have it make sense for what we're doing. So I've personally found, without going like too far down the rabbit hole of using AI in my business, I found it to be really helpful for a lot of things. And mainly with my service business, to be honest, because a lot of times it's hard for me to think of like what do I want to name these treatments? Like if I have a theme, what are some ideas of like what I could name this? Or even when I was trying to change my business name, trying to figure out what good ideas would be and asking ChatGPT like what should I name my business? And this is who I am and this is what I do. What are some ideas? So I've definitely been using it more for like helping me to have creative ideas or like be sparked by something. And lately I've been using it a lot more um for other things. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And my goal is just to provide you guys with like some insight in what it could do for you, and then some ways to make it work better for you so that you're not doing as much work. Because definitely found sometimes that like if you're not really clear with your prompts or with what you're asking, then you could just get like a hodgepodge of stuff that doesn't really make sense and doesn't match your brand voice. So it's not really usable in that case. Um, so we'll talk about that. Uh, some of the things I'm not really going to touch on are like image creation because I think that that's not really usable in our industry. So we're not going to go really into that. I'll talk about a little bit of like video stuff and maybe, um, Canva designing has an AI feature, so there's some really like usable things in that, but it doesn't really make sense for us to like go out and create images of people doing facials or people doing massages or whatever, right? I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes they have like six fingers and like just weird stuff is happening, so it just isn't really usable. But there are a lot of things that it is usable for and can make things a little bit easier for you. So let's get into that. So I want to start by talking about uh, what are the actual like applicable uses for AI, and then some of the options for where you can find AI tools that are really helpful. And then we'll get into the like defining our brand and things like that. Okay, so first thing, I already mentioned this, but creating service names and service descriptions are a great use of AI. I would also say creating protocols to a certain extent. So, one thing that people ask me for protocols for all the time or ask me what I do or how I do this is guided meditations. And I can tell you that I do not use any sort of protocol or anything for a guided meditation. I don't personally prefer to do guided meditations. A little bit of guided breathing is really more where I stay within that, but some people really love that and are really good at it. So maybe you want to change it up, or maybe you want a protocol or an idea of how to even say these things so that you can get comfortable with it. AI, perfect tool for that. So in the Notion document that I will give you guys, and I can actually link it right now so that those of you that are here can open it. Um, In the Notion guide, I do have a list of prompts that you could use, but you can make up prompts for anything, right? So we're going into Pisces season. Maybe you want to do some treatments that relate to the Pisces archetype. So asking ChatGPT, like, write a guided meditation for Pisces season that draws on the archetypal energy of Pisces and encourages the client to go within and draw from that archetype in whatever way they need it. And it will give you a whole list of things to say. It's pretty amazing. So guided meditation prompts are one way I would say to use this because uh, I personally don't feel comfortable just coming up with random ones off the top of my head. And I'm also not going to create protocols this for people because this is not my zone of genius. So using ChatGPT would be a great place to start and asking it to create any sort of guided meditation for you. Um, and then you can get into protocols. So for those of you that have taken some of my classes, we do um, like the tuning fork protocols, for example. We talked about this at the end of the sound healing class, but you can ask it to create tuning fork protocols for you using specific forks or even using like sound bowls. Create a protocol for you that you can use at the end of a facial that will take you 10 minutes or at the beginning of a massage that will take you 5 minutes. Be very specific about this for whatever specific intention you want to bring in. Um, so we talked about that. We also talked about acupressure points, like asking ChatGPT what acupressure points can be used in a facial for this specific purpose. And it will give you a list of points. And most of the time you have to go look those up, but it's a great place to start. Versus when you do this on Google, you end up getting, the top answer may or may not have what you need. And so then you go to the next one, you're looking at that, then the next one, then the next one. And to be honest with you, most of what you're finding nowadays on Google came from someone writing a blog post using ChatGPT or other forms of AI. So just go straight to the source and ask it for this information, and it's going to be more personalized to you and give you exactly what you need instead of giving you just like this random person's perspective on something. So that can be really helpful. Um, I also have been using it to create like general protocols that I might want to use for my seasonal treatments. And this is something that I started doing recently, where I do like treatments for every single season. So I just asked it like, what are some ideas for the winter season, drawing from Chinese medicine, because that's kind of where I like to pull things from, and like encouraging yin in the body. What are some ideas for treatments of different times that include um, different types of modalities that can be used during this season? And it gave me a list, and then I drew from that list kind of what I thought would be a good idea. But you can tell it in such a specific way. Like, I want a 60-minute facial protocol for the spring that focuses on blooming flowers. This is my idea for the spring. So you can steal it if you want. I don't care. I haven't put anything together yet, but like I want to do an in bloom facial. So anyways, you could tell like 60-minute facial treatment using flowers. What are some flowers that I can incorporate? What are the benefits of these? How can I do this? And it will give you a complete overview of what to do. So super helpful. I get asked about protocols a lot, and this is something that I actually don't usually do. I don't usually write protocols or follow a protocol. So it's been kind of new for me to do these like seasonal treatments, and it's been really fun. But because I'm just like, I'm just gonna do whatever, sometimes I have an idea of like what I want to incorporate, but asking ChatGPT for ideas gives me like a whole different realm of things potentially that I could include. So that's been a really fun way to like play with AI and just get it to expand my thinking and learn new things about what could be included. Sometimes it's stuff that I have like completely forgot that I even incorporate, like facial reflexology. I don't use that super often, and so, you know, when I ask for these types of things, sometimes that's a response I get, and then I'm like, oh, I can totally include that. That's something I haven't done in a long time. So it just kind of brings this to the forefront. Um, and can be really inspiring in a way. It doesn't have to be like exactly what you use as a protocol, but it can inspire you to do these things. So those are some like specific ways as far as incorporating it into a service business. Now, the other main way that we can use AI, and I'll keep referring back to ChatGPT, but it doesn't have to be ChatGPT, is with social media content creation. So I I have not always done this because when when you ask AI to write things like this for you, it can be oversimplified potentially. I think it takes away sometimes from like my expertise because the information that it gives isn't accurate, or it's not giving me exactly what I want or like as deep as I want, or it just sounds weird, right? Like I said in the meeting, it's cringe. Like you can tell it's not the person writing it. You can tell it's AI because when you first start using it, it has kind of like a pattern of speaking and writing sentences that is very kind of standardized. So you can look at people's posts, for example, sometimes and see that that caption was written by AI because nobody writes like that. Like nobody uses, for example, the long double dash. I don't even know how to recreate that on my keyboard. So if I'm using ChatGPT to like write a social media caption for me and it's using that long dash, it really won't look like I wrote it because I never use that long dash. I also never use the Oxford comma. So if I go in and I ask ChatGPT to write something out for me, like an email, and it's filled with that comma, I'm going to look at it and immediately say, that's not me, because I would never put that comma there. So, anyways, the point I was getting to with that is like you have to be really specific and you have to train ChatGPT to talk like you and think like you and speak to the customers that you want to speak to. And only when you do that can you go back and use these social media prompts and have them be really effective. So I think before you go in and do that, if you're planning on using like ChatGPT to help you with social media content creation and things like that, you're going to have to do a lot more work afterwards to refine that content to make it sound like you. Otherwise, it's just going to be like absolutely ridiculous. And sometimes that's okay. Like, uh, one of the things I used it for at some point was to like write a poem about lymphatic drainage, and then I just put it as the caption. And yeah, like that was obviously AI, and that's fine. But I'm not, uh, I'm not usually copying and pasting exact things from ChatGPT when I ask it to help me to create content. It's more like a guideline. And part of that is because I haven't trained it all the way to my voice, although it is getting a lot better. So, for social media content creation, you can really get into asking it to do everything for you. I'm going to give you some ideas of prompts and things that you can have it do, and then we're going to go back and talk about how to train it because that's really the part that's going to make it more effective. But just to give you an idea of like what you could be doing with this and how to make your life easier if you're trying to do um, some things with social media that help you with your business. And it doesn't have to be only social media, by the way. Um, you could apply this uh to blogging, which is great for increasing your SEO on your website. You can apply this to um creating YouTube videos, like giving you an outline of what to talk about in your YouTube video. You can apply this to emailing and being able to like send um send like emails over and over again. These are things that I struggle with consistency wise because they're time consuming tasks. Writing emails and writing blogs are time consuming tasks, but they're really helpful for business building. So I'm gonna, like I said, give you some ideas of the prompts and then we'll go back and talk about the training because that takes a little longer. So some ideas of how you could use ChatGPT or any sort of AI to create posts for social media include like educational posts. So for example, I just posted like an acne educational post. I really did go into ChatGPT and like ask it very specifically for an outline of this 10 carousel thing because I was like, I want 10 slides, but I don't know how to format this really. I know exactly what I want to talk about. I know these four things are really important to me, and having a slide about this is really important to me, but what could this look like? And it gave me a pretty good overview, although I had to change quite a bit of it. And I think part of the reason why I had to change it is because it wasn't clear enough with my instructions. So all that aside, creating carousel posts, outlines is one of the best ways I think to use social media or use ChatGPT to help you with social media because carousels are great for so many things. And we'll talk about the things that type of content is really good for, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so writing a carousel post, developing a series of educational posts would be another one. So like if you want to post, either like a reel series or a video series or stories or maybe once again a carousel. How can you like what would you talk about? Like, you know what you want to talk about generally, right? But do you know like the exact details of what you want to say? And just having it write this out for you can make things go a lot quicker. Um, Another thing is like developing a script for a reel. And maybe these are things that you're gonna like put on as text, or maybe it's for a voiceover. Voiceovers are great because then you can use captions most of the time to add the text, and it makes things go a little bit faster. They also help with reach because of the original audio. So, I hate doing them, but they are helpful when you're making reels. Uh, Showcasing your treatments. So maybe like outlining exactly how you did a treatment on somebody, especially if you're someone who records a lot. So, for me, one way that I do this is when I do like Zoom videos or whatever with you guys for trainings, I input it into an AI tool that then gives me an outline of exactly what took place in that video. And that actually gives me the detailed treatment overview. It also gives me like an overview of what we talk about today. And that can be used as, you know, that's how I've been creating the YouTube captions that go on, the YouTube video after we record these. It just makes things a lot easier. Like rather than me sitting here and trying to think like, oh yeah, this is what I talked about in this video, or this is what I did on this client. If you have it recorded, then you can go back and use AI tools to actually pull that information. And there's like a specific tool that I use for that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, you know, Writing a template for before and afters, uh, developing a script for showcasing your facial and everything that's included in your facial, so you could like give it your uh your protocol or whatever, and then have it develop a script for you that you can use for social media posts. Um, Client education. I love the idea of using this for client education because this is once again something that takes a lot of time. And it doesn't mean that like by using a tool like this that you're not doing enough. So I just want to stress that because I think that that's kind of the idea that we get in our heads a lot of times is like, oh, if I use ChatGPT, then it's not really me. It's not authentic. It's not genuine. It's not worth giving out to people. And it definitely can be, because it's just going to take you less time to do. You're still going to edit it and make it you, and you can give it direction to do exactly what you want to do or what you would do. So, for example, creating a series of tutorials that clients can use at home to incorporate breath work and mindfulness and facial massage, writing informative posts, developing content explaining how the things that you do work and with really practical examples, giving insight from you. So like creating a post about insight about what your practice is all about. Um, and part of the way that you could do this is by voice noting things. Like if it's easier for you to say things than it is to type things out, then just brain dump in a voice note and then input it into AI and have it rewrite it into something usable in terms of content. um, Asking it to write engaging posts about the mind, body, spirit connection and like the things that you're really excited about in your treatments. Are you using a more holistic approach? Are you using a medical approach? What you're using a somatic approach? Use it to create posts about that. And once again, it's like outlines, right? So it's not creating the entire post that you're gonna share. Um, you can have it write your captions. You can come up with a series. I actually did this at one point where I was working on blogs and I like knew I wanted to talk about something that I didn't know exactly like, once again, my brain is filled with a lot of things. And so the specificity of it sometimes is what I really struggle with. And so I just said like, this is what I want to focus on. This is what I want to have happen. Give me a list of blog posts that I could do around this topic. And that was really helpful for me because, like I said, I struggle with blogging and emailing because the long form content takes so long to create and so long to even think about. It's a lot of brain power. And so having an outline like that is super helpful. Um, Also, you could use it to create content calendars. And so that's another thing you could get into is like create a content calendar around this subject. We used to do at one point like monthly focuses. So this is when I was teaching aesthetic school. We would do like 1 month focus on this thing, 1 month focus on this thing. And all of our content would kind of fall within that category of creation, which gives you a lot of structure. And so you can use it to create the structure for you to kind of create within. I think some of us that are creatives are like so all over the place that it's hard to put everything together, and so that can be really helpful. Um, and then around business growth, you could ask it to help you create promotional content. You can ask it to help you to create content that positions you as an expert in your field. So writing educational posts, once again, is where this will come up, or developing content around your belief systems and things like that. And then, you can get even more specific with it and tell it what your goals are. So create poll questions that increase engagement, or, you know, write a caption that asks people with a call to action that asks people to comment or share or whatever, because those interactions always help on social media. So, um, all these prompts are in here, and like the examples are very specific, but if you are looking for more prompts, just things to like get your brain thinking about these things, um, then just go into ChatGPT and tell it, give me a list of prompts that I can use to create content around this belief system, how I do my treatments. And it'll give you a pretty good list that can take you through, a content calendar for a good amount of time. Um, so those are just some examples of prompts themselves. So, there's the content creation side of it, and then there's this other side of AI where, this is really popular right now, where you're using it to cut time and like communicating with clients. And I think that this idea is really interesting. I personally have not gotten on the chatbot DM automation train. And part of that is because of the way that I want to interact with my clients. So I also think that this type of AI usage isn't successful unless you have a big following or a lot of viral videos. Otherwise, it's just kind of pointless. It probably makes more sense for those of us who run smaller businesses, or like more like one-on-one businesses, to not automate things in this way, but have authentic interaction. So I think that this idea of like AI chatbots, where as an example, if you don't know what I'm talking about, people ask you to DM them a word in order to get information. So whether it's like a link to something they're selling, a link to something they're giving away for free, or information about services that they offer, they're using AI chatbots for that. And the whole reason is to automate things so that they don't have to be in their DMs all the time responding to people. The other idea behind the AI chatbots that I think comes from the perspective of the people making the AI chatbot is that it increases conversions, meaning that like you're taking your customer through the sales process easier. Their perspective on this is that, if you make your customer go find a link in bio, or, search out your links or your booking link or whatever, that they're less likely to convert. And that may be true. That absolutely may be true. But for me, this is where I was saying my ideal client, this doesn't really fit within like the way I want to do things. I don't want my ideal client to expect me to do everything for them and be easy. Okay. I want my ideal client is someone who is proficient enough in using social media, like dedicated enough to their health and their wellness, that they will, and in like the case of students in their education, that they will take the time to go find the link in my bio. It's not that hard. I make it easy. Click on that and then follow through and read the information. I don't want to make it that easy for them. I just don't. Because what I find is that client, when they come to me, isn't in the space that they need to be in order to receive. Okay. Because they want something done for them like this, and that is not the type of service that I offer. It's also not the type of education that I offer. It really requires work on your part. And so I'm fine with my client having to work to get their service booked or whatever. I mean, I don't want it to be complicated, but I also don't want it to be so easy that all they have to do is send me one word and then I like hand feed them everything. Of course, AI is doing it for you, but I just don't see the um I don't see the benefit of that for my business personally. Now, if my business was uh a little bit maybe bigger, like my following was bigger or I had like more viral videos and I wanted to distribute like a lead magnet, which is something that you give away to people to get them into your circle or on your mailing list, then that may make a lot of sense actually, because then they can easily get access to that lead magnet. Sure, but then taking them through the process of like conversion a little bit in not a more complicated way on purpose, but in a way where they have to work just a little bit more, would maybe make more sense for me. So anyways, AI chatbots are DM automation tools, and they respond to your messages. They can send links to people. They can book appointments. They can drive sales for your business. One simple way to use this actually that might benefit someone like me is just having an automated response that says, email me for more information. Here are the basic links. Email me for more information, because I don't like to do business stuff on social media anymore just because I lose DMs. So maybe like having that sort of boundary setting by using AI as like a buffer between those like those people who DM a lot or whatever. Um, at least with the important things, right? Like little things in a DM, no big deal, but like something important, like you can't get into your online course or something, like that needs to go through email, because if I lose it, then you can't get in. So anyways, there's little side notes there. The popular ones that I found are MiniChat. MiniChat is like the most popular one. So this will automate Instagram, TikTok, Facebook DMs, even WhatsApp. So if you are utilizing WhatsApp for some reason, I don't know why you would do that in our business. I think that's more of like maybe a coach business type thing. Then that can be really helpful. It You can create flows, so like taking people from beginning to end in a promotion, trying to get them to purchase something, book a service, whatever, or even like answering common questions. That can be done in an automated way with AI. And then it can also integrate with your e-commerce. So if you're using Shopify, it can integrate that and it will be able to like send people things or make recommendations for them based on their questions. So the other thing I really like about MiniChat is it's free up to a certain point. And so it's easy to try and provides you with analytics so you can track the performance of the tool itself without having to invest a bunch. And some of the other AI tools that I found were like ridiculously expensive. And it's like if you're a small scale business, that doesn't make sense to invest in. It makes sense if you want to try out a chat tool that you use something like MiniChat that isn't super expensive. Um, I guess like my recommendation on this is make it make sense. Like, don't make people DM you for the most ridiculous things by putting it in your little post, like DM me this for this. Like, just do it for the important things, or the things that are pain points for you that are taking up time, and only do it if it is a pain point for you. I would say don't expect this to make sales for you unless you're already struggling with keeping up with the amount of DMs that you get about sales. If that, or like bookings or things like that. Like if that's when you're struggling with, then this would make sense. It doesn't make sense to invest time and energy in setting it up if that's not where your business is scaled to yet. The other two I found are called Interact and Hootsuite. Hootsuite has some other benefits of like interacting with your social media and helping you to create dashboards. But there are also other tools for that. And I honestly think like just using ChatGPT to create outlines for that is really helpful unless you want something that automatically posts for you. So there's some more information about this in the little Notion guide, but that would be something, you know, this is something we're seeing a lot right now. So it's something, like I said, that you could invest that time and energy in setting up if it's something that makes sense for you. I don't think it makes sense for like a whole lot of us in this business, but that's just me. Uh, at least not the small content creators. So other things that can help you with content creation and copywriting, there's a few different AI tools that will actually help you with SEO and building websites that have good SEO, building landing pages for things. This can be really helpful if you're like, I have no idea how to set up my website. I think some people get really caught up here because they think it has to be really complicated and it doesn't. Making websites generally very easy unless you start integrating like e-commerce and things like that. So um, use the AI to maybe make a really great landing page where when people come to your page, they want to purchase from you or they want to book with you. That's what I would use it for, is like, how can I outline this? How can I have the right type of SEO to draw in my ideal client? That's something I would use AI for. And I have played with that a little bit in like redoing landing pages for my website. And I did really like, I was pleasantly surprised in what it gave me. And I think for me, what it helps with is streamlining things because I sometimes just make things overcomplicated. So knowing that about myself, I think as I go back through and kind of like refine some of the pages on my website, I would go in and ask AI for some information about how to lay that out better. So just an idea. Some of the website builders have like integrated AI, and so you can do that within the site. But generally speaking, I find ChatGPT has been better for me in that way. So I have a list of different tools there for content creation, copywriting that will help you with like website building with things like that. The other ones that you can use for graphic design branding would be Canva AI. Can Within Canva Pro, I should say, you have access to AI tools like Magic Studio. Um, it can be helpful, and sometimes it's just a mess. So Canva AI is kind of like all over the place in its usefulness. I have found some things that I really like it for, but I find that creating images is not its strong suit. Sometimes creating graphics, it can be pretty good at. So that's something to play around with if you do a lot of creation on Canva, like carousels and even videos, things like that. It can be really helpful for that. The other ones I wanted to touch on were video tools. So AI video tools are helpful only in a certain sense. So for example, I use InShot, and in InShot, you can use their AI cutting tool to cut out filler words, to cut out like spaces in time. So if you're like recording, if you're a trainer, for example, and you're recording videos for people that you're going to sell, this is a very effective way to edit and cut down time. I cannot even tell you guys how much time it takes me to edit an online course. It is Sometimes it can take 2 weeks to edit just like one online course worth of videos. I think my holistic facial course took me months to edit all those videos because there's just so much. How much easier would it have been with a tool like this? Like back then when I was doing it. So this is actually a new feature and something I'm really excited to play with to make videos just a little bit more easier on me for editing. Now, if you're doing things like for YouTube, client education videos, same thing, right? You can use it to cut out all of that like extra space and filler words and things like that. Also, if you're doing voiceovers, you can use it in that way. So super helpful. In Stories is another app that I have been playing with in the last year. I will say it is super helpful. I love how it works. I hate what I have to do to use it, which is that it doesn't really do well when you upload long videos. So InStories basically will create these like short reels or Instagram stories or TikToks for you. And it uses templates. So you like find a template that you like, uploads like a certain amount of videos and it automatically cuts everything for you and makes it into this beautiful video. Great. But sometimes videos are like 7 minutes long. And when I try to upload that video, it has problem. So I just have to do a little bit more work on the back end to like trim into usable clips. And then in stories is great for that. Really, really great for making reels and for making TikTok videos. I think that's where it really shines. Um, because it just makes like if you do this a lot, if you make videos where like things are cut up and you have like little clips of things, it takes a long time to do that. And so just being able to upload it in here if you have those shorter videos to upload makes it so much easier. And it's like new and exciting and fun and like there's different ideas. Some of them have music, some of them have font over top of them. So, probably about half the reels I've posted in the last year have been made with in stories and I do appreciate it as a tool, but I had to really modify how I was using it. So, and the content is very short form. So if you're into making those like 15-second reels that like loop, that's a great place to do that. Um, InShot, CapCut, both of those have options for AI editing tools, things where like, and actually Canva does this too, where it will like, it uses AI to like find your body and makes things on the outside, like little decorations and blurring things out. And so that can be a great way to play with video editing, but uh, not like the most important use of AI, right? So it just makes things a little bit more easy and fun. Um, the other business operation tools that I utilize like every day that are AI based, Notion. Like you guys get my Notion guides. I use Notion AI to help with all sorts of stuff, and it can do a ton of different things, but I will say if you're not invested in using Notion, then it's not really like the best use of funds because you have to pay for it. So one of the things that we use Notion AI for is like taking notes from something and reforming that into a usable tool or like handout or a database. We're creating a database right now on skincare brands. And so what I've been able to do is like take my assistant's long list of notes and input them into Notion and say reformat it in this way. And it takes the data and inputs it in a way that you guys will find usable once you have access to it. It also allows you to like create AI sorting tools and things like that. And so really cuts down my time for like large data type things. Otter is the one that I use for transcription and I'm obsessed with it. So, there's so many ways that you could use this in your own business that are not like the same way that I use it necessarily. What I do is I put every video in Otter. I originally started using it to create um captions because part of my accessibility goals for 2024 were to add captions to all my videos in Kajabi because it doesn't do it automatically. Um, so I started using it for that, but what I found is things like being able to voice note myself and upload it into Otter AI and make it into something usable. Taking things like this, or we're going to talk about, something for an hour, inputting it into Otter AI and asking it, what were the main points? Make a small, like a small paragraph about what we talked about, a summary, and turn this into 5 different Instagram posts, like based off of my transcript. So it's taking the things that I've said, but it is then forming it into something that's reusable for content. Super helpful. If you are into reusing content, which is something that if you're doing a lot of different types of content creation, you should be doing. But the other way that you could use Otter AI is by recording. So you would have to get permission for this from your clients, but recording your consultations and recording your home care recommendations and everything afterwards. And like on a voice note, and then you put it into Otter AI and then have it give you a summary of that you can email the client. Makes things easier for me. If you're a massage therapist and you have to do soap notes, or if you're an esthetician and you do soap notes, this is a great way to do your soap notes without having to actually sit there and like type everything out. It's usually why I don't do it, but really helpful for that. Or do you guys take a lot of classes, maybe asking if you can record the class and then taking that and inputting it into a tool like that to give you a summary of what was talked about in the class, even giving you like things to study. So create a set of note cards for me based off of this, or create like a short form, something that I can keep in my room based off of this information. I've actually done that with ChatGPT by loading pictures of different things, like even from books, for example. So I'll like take a picture of the page in the book and upload it into ChatGPT and like write this out in a short form that I can keep in my room as something to refer back to. So there's great ways to utilize that to like help you remember things, right? What were the other ones I want to talk about? I think that was mainly it for like different types of tools. I did find a list of AI tools that actually helps you give skincare recommendations, and I thought that this was super interesting. Maybe not something we would actually use, right? But are other people using this? Are other brands using this? Are skincare brands using this technology? Yes. Skincare brands are selling product using AI tools. So it's something to know about and be educated about so that you can talk to your clients about this. Like, hey, when you chat into your favorite skincare line and ask them what product you should use for this, that's AI responding to you. That's not a real person. So you can give them better information right than that. It's just knowing like where it exists in the world is also super helpful. Okay, so I want to end by talking about training AI a little bit, because I think that this is where, we can talk about all these things and ways to use it, but it doesn't actually help you unless it knows what you're trying to do with that information. So this is probably the most important thing that you need to do if you really want to like play with using AI. You have to outline these things for it. And, taking this another step, even if you don't want to use AI, you have to do these things for your brand. And if you haven't done this in a while, or if you have never done it, then this is probably a good time to sit down and snapshot your business and what you want and your mission, your vision, and your clients. Because if you haven't already done that, then you're flying blind anyways. And if you haven't done it recently, then things may have changed. So the goal with doing this with AI is you actually input everything into AI and you tell it to create content based off of this. And that can be really helpful. But if you're going to get content yourself, you also need to be creating based off of this. So either way, I would say go through this little manual here and actually do it, because it's going to help you so much, whether you're using it to train AI or to train your own self. Okay. So there's 3 steps here. The first step is to define your business and your brand, and you actually train AI to do this, to create based off this by inputting everything into it and telling it to save that information. So the main things that you need to outline are going to be your mission statement, why, what sets your business apart, your core beliefs or core values. Normally, business has like between 3 and 5 core beliefs, core values, or like core pillars of their business, which are like the things that you always come back to. What guides you? And there's a list of examples in the handout that you can look at if you need ideas of this. But so some examples are like body-mind integration is essential for true healing. Every person's healing journey is unique and deserves personalized attention. One of my core values is listed here, creating a safe, trauma-informed space. And the fact that that's fundamental to effective body work. I talk about this all the time. You cannot get results without nourishing the nervous system. So that is a core belief, a core value of my business that I want to come up over and over and over again. And if I'm going to ask AI to create something for me, I want that included. So I need to tell it to do that. Um, and then also your goals. So, what is your direction? Where are you going? That helps you to create the right call to action, the right type of content. So you have to know what your goals are, both short term and long term. So if your goal is to grow your email list, that's going to give you a different type of content or call to action than your goal being to book more clients for services. Like those are two different things and speak to clients in two different ways. If your long-term goal is to hire people, open your own practice, to start training people, like whatever your long-term goal is, you also need to know that because everything should be like a step along the way to get you to that point. And the only way to grow in that way is to actually have that defined. So write all of those things down. Once you have it all outlined somewhere, then you say, ChatGPT, here's an overview of my business. This is who I am. This is what I do. These are my core beliefs. This is my mission. These are my goals. Make everything align to this. And then save it somewhere because sometimes ChatGPT goes off course. So just that's just how it works. You tell it to save something forever and it will end up forgetting or like using some other random question that you asked it to inform it. So save it somewhere just in case you feel like you're not getting what you need anymore out of the responses, and then you can re-input it, right? Um, so that's step one. And then step two would be to outline your ideal client with as many details as possible. If you have never done a client avatar, um, an outline of your ideal client, whatever you want to call it, client mood board, whatever, then you absolutely have to do this. Like, you don't know who you're speaking to when you create for social media or create content if you don't know who your client is. So go through the demographics, be very specific. How old are your ideal clients? What gender are they? What location are they in? Where do they live? Where do they work? Where do they shop? I love this. Where do they shop? Because it gives you an idea of like just what type of person they are, right? So I gave an example here, very specific. Women aged 40 to 65, health conscious, affluent, meaning like they have a career. And there's a reason for that. Facial services aren't cheap. So the type of client I want is gonna spend money on things that are luxurious, spend money on themselves. They're seeking natural alternatives to invasive anti-aging treatments and synthetic skincare products. They shop at Whole Foods, go to yoga classes. They love sound baths. Okay, that's my ideal client. And I could get more specific than that if I wanted to. Um, this is just, for this little guy here. Then you do the psychographics. What's their mindset, their struggles, and their motivations? So what do they think about? What do they struggle with? What are they having challenges with on their skin or in their body, in their life? A big one for me is like my ideal clients struggle with being hypersensitive or highly sensitive and being in environments that are overstimulating. They are aware of their nervous system and want to know how to regulate their nervous system. Like, this is who I want to speak to at all times. So I don't want to create content that accidentally speaks to somebody different because that's not my ideal client. And I will say that sometimes when we get into this, like when I've taught this in the past and gotten into it with people, their response is sometimes like, well, all clients are my ideal clients. I want to bring in everybody. I'm sorry, that's just not realistic. So you have to be very specific about what makes sense for your business and who that person is. And if anything, make it about yourself. Who are you? Because we tend to click with the clients that are like us. So if you really can't figure this out, write down who you are and start to speak to that. Okay, so next is pain points. What challenges do they face? So one for me is like feeling really frustrated by um the verbiage around aging and like dealing with aging in a way that um accepts that we're gonna age and doesn't like conform to these like societal standards of how we should age or how we should look. And so that's like a big pain point I think that I like to speak to, just as an example. And then dreams and desires, what do they want? So you have these four main categories to work through and really outline everything. And then the other thing that I am really passionate about outlining for our purposes is how that client moves through the steps of conversion. Okay, so your conversion steps, just to give you an overview, are prospect, which is anybody in your target audience. I used to always say this was anybody with skin, but that's not accurate. It's anyone who's in your target audience. So anyone who falls within that those 4 points of what you described is a prospect. So they haven't yet learned about your business, but they're someone who you know needs to learn about your business. The next group is a suspect, and a prospect becomes a suspect when they learn about your business and are curious about what you do or what you offer. So now they're like, suspect sounds kind of negative. They're sus, right? But they're interested in what you're doing and they're ready maybe to move to the next step, but you haven't actually gotten them to buy anything yet. So these are like all your followers who are not your customers. That's what I would say a suspect would be if you want like a general idea. The next group is a first-time buyer. So once the person actually makes a purchase or enrolls in a class or comes to get a treatment, they become a first buyer and they are not a client yet. Okay. So they don't become a client until they're the repeat buyer. And repeat buyers are the ones that come back for more. They're coming back regularly. And then at the last stage of client conversion, they become an advocate for you. So now they're out there telling everybody about you, sharing you, sending their friends to you. That is an advocate. And ideally, we want all of our clients to move from prospect to advocate. But how do you get them there is the question. And I think that you have to outline what they do at every step. So like my ideal for like the way that my person would work through being a suspect to a first-time buyer would be like they would see my Instagram post and then they would go to my bio and they would click the booking link and then they would book an appointment. That's the process that I want them to go through. So going back to like that AI chatbot thing, like that is not part of my flow. I want my flow to be like the person takes control over the situation because they like what they see or because what they see spoke to them. So that what that helps you do is really iron down like who are you creating for? If you are in the stage of your business where you're really booked and you have a ton of repeat buyers, but and you want them to be advocates and that's how you want to grow your business, how can you nourish that stage of the client growth and not focus so much on like creating content for people to find you? If you're not at that stage yet where you have a lot of repeat buyers, then you need to think about what's the stage between first time to repeat buyer that's missing and how can you create content that speaks to that person. So once again, the goal of this is to use ChatGPT or other AI tools to help you do this and do it easier. And if you outline what you want all of them to do at each stage, then you can actually go in and say, how can I take my ideal client who has received a service and convert them to the next service level with an Instagram post or with a follow-up email or like whatever type of content you want to create, or even asking like what forms of content are good for this? How can I get them to move through this stage easier? How can I make it more easeful or more enticing for them to do? Um, so those are just some ideas to use in that case. So I would say if you have not done that yet, go through and create those little avatars and everything about your ideal client. It is super helpful. Then everything, like I said, that you do speaks to them. And then you can take all of that and input it as a objective for for ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you use to say, like, I want to create content that resonates with this person at this stage. This is who they are. These are their struggles. These are their desires. Use this information to create everything from now on. Like, make everything aligned to this. Speak to this every time. Makes it easy. Once again, save it somewhere so that you can copy and paste easily. Last is tone. So your tone is important because this is what makes you you, right? And it allows the client to perceive you the way that you want to be perceived. And if you're not careful with AI, then the tone is what sets people or what pushes people away, I would say, makes them cringe. So what you want to do is outline for yourself or define for yourself like 3 to 5 words that capture your brand or your tone. In the past, I have done this in the context of archetypes. So if that's helpful for you, use archetypes as a guideline where you say like, maybe this isn't how you are already, but what you want your business to be in order to move to the next level is like, I need to be this archetype. And so what are the 3 to 5 words that define that archetype? Examples would be like nurturing, grounded, trauma-informed, somatic, caring. Like I don't ever want to be overly aggressive in the things that I say, although sometimes like I naturally come off that way. And so even taking my desired tone and then inputting what I want to say to ChatGPT and asking it to redefine back to my desired tone can be helpful. What is the emotional impact you want? How do you want your audience to feel? So that's super important to define. What should they feel when they interact with your content? For me, it's like safe, heard, empowered. And then you could also input examples of brands that you admire or like work that you've done that's really helpful. And then once again, you input that into ChatGPT, say, this is my tone. Use this for all content creation. Use this for all my treatment descriptions. One thing that ChatGPT has learned about me is that I like everything to be really witchy and includes some element of like being spiritual. And this can be good and bad. Like I think it gives me really good stuff sometimes where I'm like, oh wow, like I never thought of that. But then it like goes overboard. Okay. So sometimes you may have to tell it to scale back or just give it more input. Like less witchy, more this. Sometimes I have to do that because it's like all over the place with the being too ethereal for me. I like to be a little bit more practical. So redefine as you go. So once you have kind of all of this outlined, you know what your mission, your vision, your goals are, what your tone is, and what your ideal client is, put it all together in one prompt, finalize it, save it somewhere, and use that to input, say, this is my tone, this is everything, this is how I want you to, this is what I want you to use for everything from now on. And then, as you go, you may find that those things don't work. And so then you have to go back and like adjust as needed. So that it doesn't always like bring up the same stuff in posts and things like that. Okay, so that's kind of the training part of AI. And some of what will happen over time is that AI gets trained by what you're doing with it. And so it may become smart about this stuff over time. But when you first get into it, I say it's really important to go in and define all of this from personal experience, go in and define all of this because it can make it a little bit more work for you to have to go in and edit things more, makes it less efficient. And also, like I said, doing the work beforehand is so valuable to your own business that you should be doing this anyways. Having that written down somewhere is only going to help even if you don't use it for AI purposes. Okay. So then, kind of thinking about what types of content to create, just kind of piggybacking off of like where your client is at in their journey or like what their journey looks like or even where you're at in your business. You really want to make sure that the content that you're creating, if you're going to use AI to like give you ideas and whatnot, is actually the type of content that you need for your individual business and your individual customers. And what I mean by that is it reaching your intended goal. Okay, so think about what your goals are. And once again, like thinking about where your clients, most of your clients are in their journey. Like if you don't have a lot of clients, then really you have a lot of prospects. And so that's where you want to focus your energy. But if you have a lot of clients and that's not really where you're at, you're trying to maybe grow so that you're like send clients to your new employee. Um, then maybe you need to look at that like advocate area so that you can get them to just recommend people to your new employee, as an example. So there's like three main types of content categories that you want to look at creating. Do you need to increase your reach? Do you need more customers? Do you want to grow your audience? Are you trying to grow? Is one of your goals to like go viral on TikTok or in Instagram? Do you want more people to find you through Google versus social media? Do you want to get off of social media and do something completely different? So increasing reach is going to be a different type of content than if you're trying to increase resonance or build trust or increase revenue, increase money. Okay. So reach is just like getting new prospects and turning them into suspects, making more people interested in what you do. So types of content that fit within this category would really be like viral posts, really engaging video content, usually shorter form, shorter the better. SEO optimized long form content like blogs, and lead magnets. Lead magnets, like I was saying, are like free things that you offer people that kind of get them onto your email list. So that's like, we go on a whole other thing about lead magnets. And I don't think it's super successful unless, it's not super successful for getting new clients. I guess I should say on social media for facials or massages. It could be, but usually not. It's more like if you're trying to lean into training as something that you want to do, or even like events and things like that, then lead magnets can be great for that. But it's really for like providing content and like selling content itself, not so much for selling services. But that's just my opinion. So anyways, I have a list in here of like things that would fit in this category or like prompts that you could use. But think about when you're like inputting this into ChatGPT, like make me a carousel about this thing and whatever, what is your actual goal? Is it to get more clients? Is it to get more resonance? Which would be like trust, nurturing your relationships with your clients that you already have, building that like feeling of expertise around what you do, positioning yourself as an expert in your field. That's where resonance comes in. Resonance is good for like turning suspects into first-time buyers and bringing your first-time buyers back for more. So if you're thinking about it, about like where your clients are at in their journey, your reach gets them into being from a prospect to a suspect. And then the next step would be like, okay, now let's get them to book. Let's let them know that I'm the expert and I can really give them what they need. So I actually think carousels fit best in here because, in the first stage, usually reels are what get people, or like TikTok videos, things like that. And then in the next step, they're looking for more detail. So the more detail comes with things like carousels, emails. So your lead magnet gets them on the email list, and then you're sending them regular emails. Educational content of any form. So usually more longer form. I think YouTube is actually an example that fits in here, although, YouTube can have these like shorter, more interesting videos. And then if you want something like long form that nurtures a relationship, then that's really where that shines. This could also be like educational downloads for people, or free memberships, or client-only content like subscriptions, close friends or subscriber stories, events, open houses, things like that, where you're, maybe giving free or low cost things to people to get them more interested and get them to know that you know what you're doing and that you're the expert, okay? So think about that stage. I kind of think that this one is the hardest, to be honest, because it it does require the most work from us. And so once again, this is where AI can be helpful in taking some of that work away from you. But it's I think a lot of us have trouble positioning ourselves as the expert. Maybe that's where I'm getting with it. And so really going hard on that is a challenge if you're not willing to be seen, or like you're in that phase where you're like, I don't you have imposter syndrome. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I am actually the expert on this. So I think that this is where this can be the most challenging. And maybe that's where you say, um, I'm going to let someone else do the work for me and have AI come up with this and just kind of like play the game until it feels right. The next type of content would be increasing revenue. So that's our three types: increase reach, increase resonance, increase revenue. And increasing revenue is really the conversion step. So this is where you're like promoting your offerings, converting clients, and turning them into your sales team by making them an advocate. So I think that the big difference here is like, you don't want to be doing this all the time. You don't want every post you make on social media, every email, everything to be a sales post, because then it gets too much. Then it's like those people that end up in your email box that you unsubscribe from or that you report as spam. You don't want to be spam, whether it's, like begging for people to come in and get services or begging for people to buy. Like, you don't want to come off that way. So you only want like a small portion of your content to be sales content. The rest of it should really be educational and and increase that resonance and things like that. So, uh, however, this is necessary for running a business. So our increasing revenue types would be things like launches. So having a launch plan for new services, for example, where you're like, I don't like teasing things, so I hate to use that as an example, but like teasing something new, or doing like limited time offerings, or anytime you're doing a discount. This all fits in with this category of like launches and sales posts. Seasonal offerings, I mentioned. Emails are great for increasing revenue. Emails generally have higher conversion rates than social media. So spending time on creating good emails, definitely beneficial for all businesses, not just, I would say that service professionals are not as good at this as people who are selling content. So just keep that in mind. Somewhere that we can grow. Referral programs would be good in this category, and shareable content. Shareable content is so important. If you want something that is really going to increase your revenue, increase your reach, and increase your resonance, create shareable content. So sometimes, this means not showing your face because someone else may not feel as good about sharing that when it's not their face on it, or like making those educational posts. But um here's where I think people go wrong with creating shareable content. It's that they haven't identified their target audience, and so they're not speaking to their target audience anymore. So, for example, estheticians who are trying to get more clients oftentimes make shareable content that only applies to other estheticians. And then it's like you're not reaching your clients. Sometimes you're actually alienating your clients because your shareable content is for other professionals. And that's great if you want to be a trainer, but it's not great if you're trying to build a service business. So sometimes that shareable content aspect has to be focused on like maybe not skin related things, maybe not super educational or fun, inspirational content. That may be more within the realm of a shareable content idea for a general consumer who's not another professional. So once again, understanding that only helps you to refine what you tell ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you want to use as far as what you're creating. So it's more about like thinking through all of this and creating a really good outline for yourself and good prompts for yourself and good redirections for the tools that you can get exactly what you need that will actually help you to build your business in the way that you want. So, some examples in here for prompts are like create a 10-slide carousel explaining whatever topic you want. Use this specific tone, nurturing, educational. Include actionable tips for immediate implementation and build each slide progressively towards a clear call to action. That's going to get you, more usable content around what you want to talk about. Write a 5 email nurture sequence for new subscribers, including introducing the holistic wellness approach, and you can define this exactly the way that you want. Share valuable insights leading them to your signature treatment. So it's not that you're trying to sell in the first post. You're sending an email about the reasonings behind why, and then you ask them in, right? Outlines for downloadable PDFs. Downloadable PDFs are really great for, like, if you want to take more virtual clients, for example, or if you want, I'm trying to think of a way to like incorporate this in education for new clients, but I can't really think of a way that would like get them to be more likely to book with you with this type of content. But it can be used for other things. So think about that. And then, I talked a little bit about refining, but once you input all of this in and you get a response back, if it's not what you want, you have to redirect. So when something isn't right, you need to be very specific about what's missing. You need to maybe redefine what you want the outcome to be. Do you want the outcome to be that they take a step, like book an appointment, or do you want them to just feel a certain way, right? Both are valid things to want. So redefine what you want the outcome to be. And when possible, give it examples of your work because it will only make the voice better. The other main way that like I use ChatGPT a lot, and I know other people do, is just to spruce up what you're already doing. So maybe you're not going to use it to like write things from scratch. But you can use it to refine what you're doing. And one way that you absolutely should be doing this is using it to check your spelling and grammar and your sentence structure. Um, because man, does it suck to get an email from someone who's supposed to be a professional and it's full of spelling errors. Or man, does it suck to write a caption full of spelling errors. Okay, so just input it. Nowadays, even email has these features for you. So I don't think there's any more excuses for writing emails that have bad spelling and grammar, but it is what it is. So you don't know how to use your email features, put it into ChatGPT and ask it to do it. Another thing that, we've been doing for a while now, both me and my sister, is like writing out something and then just putting it in and saying like adjust the tone to be more professional, or like say this in a way that is more, for me, like sometimes I have to say more gentle, or like strengthen the beginning of this, or change this to this voice. Write this with this different archetype as an inspiration. That is really helpful for just like taking something that you've written and you're like, God, I hate this. It looks like crap, and just sprucing it up, right? I would say that's probably like 75% of how I use ChatGPT, honestly. It's just like, can you fix this for me? Can you make this sound better? Can you make this more pretty? Can you make this more suited to this type of client? Or like adding more detail. So if you know kind of what you want to say, but you don't want to sit there and type it all out, just ask it to do it for you and then edit from there, right? So that, I mean, that's kind of the gist of things, right? Like you just have to put it in and ask it to change it and ask it again and ask it again. And if it doesn't work, then and if it does work, then you keep that in mind. You tell it to save it forever and always come back to that idea, because then it'll always give you kind of what you want. So Uh, for me, these are all things that have been really helpful. Um, there's so many ways to use this. I would say if you haven't used ChatGPT for anything, then maybe just go in and start playing with it and see what comes up for you. If you're already using it and you feel like it could just get better, then start with like defining exactly what you want it to do. And then if you're interested in the other uses for AI to make things easier, then start playing around there. Like I've only really recently started playing with Canva, but I found some really cool things that it can do, especially in the Canva documents where so for example, I was working on some posts around different skin conditions. So I posted the acne one, but then I was working on an aging one. And I was thinking, like, what would be a good, like, handout to give people along with this if they want more information? Essentially, it could be a lead magnet, something where, like, people get access to this. They see the post and then they respond and they get access to this tool. Anyways, just playing with ideas. And so I went in and created a new document on Canva, and then I just said, uh, give me a list of 15 herbs formatted in a table that treat aging with all the different compounds that are within that herb that help, and a description of what it's used for and what kind of products you might find it in. And it like gave me a beautiful example. Is it the final version of what I would use? No, but it was like a really interesting idea and gave me a lot of insight into what I could do with it. Um, so there are ways to utilize that, especially if you want to be able to give people like handouts after their service. Maybe you want to create an aftercare protocol or just like what to expect after your treatment, things like that. That may be something that you could go in and do very easily with a tool like that. So just things to keep in mind. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer because it's already been an hour and 20 minutes, but I know that this is kind of like an intense topic with a lot of information, and um, hopefully some of it hits with you. I would say if you even found one thing that was helpful, then I did my job correctly. But if if anything, like I said, even if you don't plan to use AI, if you're like this is too overwhelming, start by defining your business because that's only going to help you. Like I've said like 5 times already, it's only going to help you to do that in your own content creation. And maybe like one more call to action I have for you is like, what ways could you use AI to make your business easier? And just make a little list of like 2 or 3 things that you could do with AI that you didn't think about before, that you want to try that you haven't done yet, and see what you can do to implement those. One for me is going to be like content calendar because I'm really bad about posting content regularly, and I know that about myself. Sometimes it feels a little forced when I do calendars, but I do want to try doing that again just to see like how it feels to work in that way. Um, and like batching ideas because not not like being inspired by anything. I think sometimes it would help to have a list of things that may inspire me that I could go back to when I'm like in creation mode, but don't really know what to create. So those are my two, just sharing with you. But I'll let you guys go. I'll stop the recording. So like if anybody has questions, of course you can ask, but